Hi, my name's Justin Johnson.
And I'm Josiah Stowe.
And we are Dominion Wealth Strategists. We are created to put money in the hands of those that are sitting in the pews.
From budgeting to estate planning, savings accounts, retirement planning, life insurance, and a heck of a lot more here at Dominion.
That means that you are leaving an inheritance that passes multiple generations because that is the legacy. It's part of our mission.
All of Christ for all of life.
And all of finance for Christendom.
Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts
now.
Yeah, so I mean, we're rolling right now, but I'll probably do an intro and post. So we'll leave all the live reads and all that stuff off tonight, but just wanted to have a conversation with you guys. We got Cody Fields, Brandon Wood, Cory Wing. How you guys doing?
I wish I was doing as good as Cody, but I got to go to work here in a little bit. So,
all right,
yeah, that stinks. Yeah, but I guarantee that my boss is a bigger jerk than your boss.
You work for yourself, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. He's a real jerk.
Yeah, well, mine's the Lord, so I can't really say anything.
All right, so yeah, welcome to the Dead Men Walking podcast, and this is really a joint podcast. If you guys want to use it on your streams too, I just thought this would be fun. We're all in a group chat together. We've met several times. We've done conferences together, but the one thing running through the vein of all of us is we're all musicians, and we've all been in bands, whether it be 5, 10, 15, in my case, 20 something years ago. And I thought it would be fun to do a music episode and maybe just talk about the bands we were in, maybe currently in if we are. And, like I said, we can make it testimonial if we want, if we were doing stuff in the band and in music that we shouldn't have been doing, and then the Lord brought us out of it, or if it was something we were exploring while we were saved. I thought that would be fun too. But before we get into that, I'm sure everyone on my podcast does, not everyone, but most people know each of you guys, but give us a little 30-second elevator pitch for each of you, who you are, introduce yourself, and then we'll get more into the band stuff later on. Cody, let's start with you.
Yeah, Cody Fields. Most of you know me as the owner of Westminster Effects. Buy stuff for your guitar at westminstereffects.com. I'm a deacon at Resurrection Church in Greer, South Carolina, and I am also the guitarist and clean vocals / some gutturals in a little post-hardcore band called Igniting the Sky.
All right, Brandon, how about you, brother?
my name is Brandon Wood. I guess I'm not really a podcaster, but I'm the producer of a YouTube channel and podcast called Eschatology Matters. And I'm a father of 6, and my wife is on a walk. She just walked behind me, and her phone just hijacked the radio in the car, and she's taking a phone call. So I'm trying to stop that. Which I knew would happen. I just didn't know it would happen right when I was talking. So
modern problems require modern solutions.
Yeah, exactly. So
go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother.
I was just going to say, I love how all rock stars have to grow up. You know what I mean? You were shredding at one time, and now you're trying to figure out the Bluetooth on your car.
Right.
All right, cool. Yeah. And Cory Wing, my man.
Well, Brandon, you are a podcaster, my friend. You are coming out from behind the wall, and we all encourage it. You have a lot to say, and you are a man of great thought and resolute faith, and so I'm here for it, brother. My name is Cory Wing. I'm the host of a channel called Civically Minded. Think of the weirdest way that you could spell that and then rethink it, and you'll still not get to me. But I'm also on the pastoral staff at a PCA church in Mooresville, North Carolina, which is in the Lake Norman area, just north of Charlotte. So I'm on staff at Shearer Presbyterian Church. I also have a real estate license, though I don't really practice anymore. That's something that Greg and I also share in common, though he practices. And I was
sounds like you're comparing your Catholicism or something like that.
Well,
I'm a practicing realtor.
In some ways, realtors are every bit as cathartic as Catholics. We like self-castigate. And then I was the lead singer and rhythm guitarist for a Christian rock band in the late 90s, which I say was the heyday of kind of Christian rock music. I mean, it was the time when you could turn on MTV and see DC Talk or Jars of Clay, or it was a wild time to be in Christian music. So
yeah, and you'd be like, wait, Switchfoot, are they Christian or they aren't Christian? What's going on? I saw them on MTV. I saw Jars of Clay in a Coca-Cola commercial. It was kind of this weird thing where it was getting so big. Yeah, absolutely. Brandon, I didn't hear, I might have cut you off. When were you actively playing in a band? What years?
I was actually thinking about that the other day. I think I started in around the year 2000, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And even though basically it was the same band, it was named differently than what the band that I spent most of my time in. But me and the lead singer we were in the band together. Terrible name. I'm not going to say the name of it, but it was just a cover band, junk band. And then that developed later on into a bigger band. But yeah, I forget what you asked.
Just the years. So that's good. 2000. Yep.
Yeah, and then I was done by late 2007, so about 7 years.
Cool. So this is what I wanted to do. I kind of wanted to talk about what instrument you guys each played. Why you played that in your band, or in Cody's case, currently playing. What drew you to that? And then I do have some clips. I have a full song, I think, from two people. And I have myself and Brandon. We both have some clips of some of the music we recorded. And then I wanted to play it and just kind of talk about it. Maybe we can joke about it. Maybe we absolutely love it. Maybe we, in my case, have to make fun of it a little bit. In the clip I'm going to share. But I think that would be fun. And we give the listeners, too, something to kind of put in their mind what we were part of. So first of all, Cody, and anyone can jump in here. I guess I don't have to direct this, but it's always a little harder when you've got four people on a stream like this. But Cody, what instrument do you play, and why were you drawn to that?
So I play guitar. Goodness, I started playing guitar in Christmas of 2000. Wow. So my family's always been fairly musical. My dad plays guitar. He plays bass at church with us. Probably about once a month. So music has always just been around. And, I guess it was that balance of, I was always a sports fan, always into sports. And then I also, I guess, just wanted to do something artistic as well. So that's kind of what drew me to guitar. And it's just, it just looks cool.
You're the first person I've ever heard that was like, well, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a jock, so I'm going to get into playing the guitar. I've never but you know what is funny is I played sports in high school too. And I find that sports and music have a lot in common. People don't realize it.
They do, especially when you get competitive with yourself. Yeah. Anybody who's into any kind of endurance or speed-based sport where you're mostly competing against yourself. Well, can I nail that riff this week after I've been working on it? It's all kind of stuff like that.
So let me ask you this. If you're just sitting around and you're relaxing and you pick up the guitar, what's the first type of music you're going to?
Oh, it's going to be something chuggy.
Okay. Chuggy.
Something aggressive, something, metalcore.
Now for Cory, chuggy means something totally different.
That's true.
It's usually a pale ale, a nice
He is
stout.
Presbyterian.
He's got it. See, there you go. He is Presbyterian.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers, my friend.
So something chuggy. Brandon, don't lift yours up. You'll get an open intox. You're in a car. Okay, so Cory, how about you, brother? What do you play, and what drew you to it, and what do you like about it?
So I've always sang during your bracket thing. I wasn't lying in one of those silly videos I made when I said that I did like music theater and stuff. I did do musical theater. I was captain of my high school soccer team too. I mean, so like you guys, I played sports.
I played soccer.
So,
we're basically twins.
So yeah. So
that means I'm on a podcast with two gay guys.
And I'm letting that slide. I'm in a great mood tonight. I'm just I'm letting that go. As the elder statesman here, I'm showing maturity.
I was just gonna say in high school, someone had to play with my balls.
Oh.
I was homeschooled most of my life. I didn't have a lot of friends. Anyway,
do not say the one and then say the other. That sounds way worse. That's holy smoke. That just got super weird. Wow. So I did do a lot of like musical theater and stuff like that. So vocals was always kind of my thing. But I was a writer. I still like to write. So I was a lyricist, and so I would sit around and write all kinds of stuff. And then I had a friend of mine that OD'd, and he just turned 15 when they found him in a Harris Teeter, which, if you don't know what Harris Teeter is, it's a grocery store chain in the South. They found him in a Harris Teeter bathroom. He had huffed some Glade or something. Honestly, it was awful. He had huffed in a supermarket bathroom and fell over stone dead. And he was about 15 years old. So that radically changed my world. And it was at his funeral that I saw about 200 and some odd kids that were hopeless. And I mean, just I'd never been to a funeral as depressing as a young person funeral. And so, I mean, kids just screaming, wailing, going crazy, and just no hope. And so I prayed about it a lot on the way home from the funeral, and I felt a very distinct call to do something about it. And I did not play an instrument other than my voice at the time. I went out and bought a guitar, just a cheap, like Epiphone, acoustic, and had a guy teach me, the basic open chords. I've not progressed much past that, in all honesty. But I'm kind of a 3 chords and the truth kind of guy anyway. So so open chords, and I play a little mandolin, and I own a banjo that I tell myself I'll play one day, but I don't. There's a bass sitting behind me and a Telecaster. I can pluck around on both of those, not well, but it's serviceable. I can play in the church band. But yeah, so I was lead singer and lyricist, and our lead guitarist wrote most of the music. We kind of had a Elton John and Bernie Taupin type thing going on. I would write lyrics, he would write music. And any of you watching that don't know who that is, you're too young. Shame on you. You should know who Elton John and Bernie Taupin are, because they're like a musical genius duo. And so yeah. And one of the things, not to totally Beauregard your episode, but I would love each of us at some point to discuss who our biggest influences were in our own instrument. So
I like that.
So yeah. So who who do you guys like for the instrument that you play? Who was kind of people that you wanted to emulate? So
okay, well, let's throw it to Brandon first. So you were mostly vocals and lyricist. So Brandon, what did you play, and how'd you come by it and like it and all that good stuff?
Well, I say that I play guitar, but I never cared about guitar at all. This would probably pain you, Cody, but all of my friends were like gearheads, and they're talking about all their gear and the guitars that they're playing. And all I wanted was an acoustic so I could write songs. So it was just a means to an end for me. So I've never actually viewed myself as a guitar player. But I started late. I was probably 17 when I got my first guitar, and I took one lesson. I learned how to play bar chords, and that was the extent of the lesson. But I was also one of those guitar players that, I mean, I've learned some licks, but really I can only ever play my own stuff, because I just was so into writing and making albums, because when I listened to albums, I was listening to what the producer was doing. I was always reading the credits and like, well, where was this recorded? Who was the producer? And I would actually follow producers like I would follow bands. And I'd always want to know who was writing the songs. And so that was kind of my angle. And then I only played live very begrudgingly, because it kind of comes with the comes with the territory. But I'd much rather be writing songs than being in a studio. But to go to what Cory asked, I think it was a great question. So for me, it was Alice in Chains Unplugged. When that record came out, that's when everything like clicked for me, and I was like, I want to do that. And that's when it kind of, that album and that whole series really kind of showcased the songwriting of those records from those bands in that era. And that's when it kind of unlocked it for me. And I was like, okay, these guys are writing songs and these are good songs. And, so a lot of the acoustic rock, so like Days of the New, Tantric, Alice in Chains, all that stuff was a major, major influence on me, which is why I ended up writing dad rock records, which is post grunge. Those are my influences. And then we made records in the 2000s and now apparently it's called dad rock. And so I'm here for it, but yeah.
I love it. All right. Yeah. And so, growing up, I was tapping on everything, tapping my feet, my hands, beating on stuff, pots and pans, wanted to play drums so bad. My father said, you're not playing drums until you learn the piano. Started taking piano at 3rd grade, took that for 6 years to 9th grade, had a phenomenal piano teacher, Cindy Murphy, still friends with her to this day. She was so patient with me because all I wanted to do was play hard and fast and chromatic runs and boogie woogie and anything I could bang on. And she gave me pieces at recitals that really encouraged that. I played things like Saber Dance and Flight of the Bumblebee and anything where I could just speed around on the keyboard while keeping tempo. Played to a metronome. My dad would sit next to me. I'd do my arpeggio runs. And if I got one wrong, he'd lightly smack my hands and go, nope, start over. So I got really good at arpeggios and chromatic runs and things like that. And in, I think, 9th grade, I quit piano. And then I said, my dad said if I took piano, he would buy me a drum set. In 9th grade, I stopped taking piano and I said, okay, buy me my drum set. He goes, well, you've got a job as a newspaper boy. You can buy your own drum set. So he kind of got me on that one, tricked me into it. So I bought a used $200 Ludwig, like entry-level drum set. Took one lesson from a pastor from another church that I knew. And then he said, I just don't have time to do this. 2 weeks later, after that one lesson, I was playing in the youth group worship team at our church for Youth Sunday, and it went pretty well. And I realized, oh, wow, basic drums is not as hard as I thought. And that 6 years of playing to a metronome, I realized really helped me with keeping time, understanding time signatures, being in the pocket, behind the pocket, in front of the pocket, things like that. And so I kind of taught myself and then played drums in a band and absolutely loved banging on stuff. And my influences when I was very young, we were more fundamentalist, wasn't allowed to listen to rock music or anything like that. But my grandmother slipped me a tape of Jerry Lee Lewis when I was like maybe in 4th or 5th grade. And I was like, what is this? This is insane. And really modeled the way I played piano after that. I just loved any type of boogie woogie, that kind of rockabilly, the Great Balls of Fire, the whole thing. And then into my mid-teens, like 14, 15, got turned on to Led Zeppelin. And I was like, when I heard Dazed and Confused and I heard those John Bonham triplets, I was like, who is this guy? And where has he been hiding this whole time? And really started an obsession with that kind of more classic 70s into 80s Zeppelin-ish, John Bonham style, a lot of triplets, solos, mid-tros, whatever you call them. And that's kind of what influenced me. And true to my form, if I want to worship and I want to be calm and I want to kind of relax, I will sit down at the piano and play hymns and psalms and worship that way. And then when I want to take out my anger and frustration and get a workout and just really rock, I will go to the drums out in my office and bang on those, which my son is taking drum lessons from me right now. So he's following in the footsteps, and both daughters play piano. So we've split that between the two of them. But that kind of, for those of you, that kind of caps up where I'm at. So let's continue on with your question though, Cory, and we'll go to Cody with this. Wait, what was your question, Cory? Gosh.
Kind of yes, influences, but
influences, yeah.
More than just influences, like who, because I know for vocals, it's gonna that's different for me, but so I'd imagine for each of you, this is going to be kind of at least a maybe 2, if not more part question of, stylistically, and then, kind of emotively, because that's how I would say it as a vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 different things for me to say, these are my favorite vocalists as far as they have the widest range, they can hit the best, their pitch is clear and clean,
Sure.
or the vocalists that emote the best, and who, when you listen to them sing, you're like, oh, I felt that, and those are very different things. So, and I'd imagine for drummers and guitarists and stuff, it's very similar. So who kind of influenced you in those different qualities of your instrument?
Very quickly, I'm going to say I pretty much just answered that. It was Bonham for me. I found it very easy to play that. I know people are going to go, oh, you just must be an awesome drummer if you can just sit down and play Bonham. But the way he played came very naturally to me. If you sit me down in like fluid jazz or something, I'm horrible. Very basic drumming like AC/DC, like not so much. I like it, but it's just a little too straightforward and boring. But Bonham naturally, and then very naturally for like Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, even Elvis, that kind of oldies for me. I moded that in my instruments. But yeah, go ahead, Cody.
I feel like I need to run to Walmart and buy a box of cheap black hair dye before I answer this question, because I'm such a mid-2000s pop punk and emo kid at heart. So
the Black Parade, baby.
Panic at the Disco.
Sorry. I'll get there. So it started for me with stuff like MXPX and Reliant K.
Oh yeah.
Especially being in the Christian world, as well as on the heavier end of the spectrum, Zayo, especially their Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest album is just incredible. And then particularly junior, senior year, I did get heavy into My Chemical Romance. And 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge came out the summer before my senior year. And that really is an incredible album. And the Black Parade, like musically so well written. But
really quick, what's the song that's like da 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 da? Is that My Chemical Romance, or no? Am I thinking of Panic at the Disco?
You're thinking Panic at the Disco.
I think you're thinking of Panic at the Disco.
I walked in with a haven't you ever? Yeah,
that one. Okay,
we're after to slap an explicit tag on this one.
Oh, sorry.
A
lot of this stuff was BC.
Yeah, that's
Christ,
right. All right. That's got a bad word in it.
Yeah, but also stuff like especially junior, senior year, Story of the Year, Thursday, Sum 41, especially Sum 41 mixing punk and metal, and then later A Day to Remember's earlier stuff mixing pop punk and hardcore, and it's just kind of progressed from there.
Yeah, Brandon, how about you, brother?
Hey, well, first, Cody, yeah, never mind. I was going to say, when emo came out, all of us guys that were listening to grunge were like, oh, what is this? We hate this. But so when I think of that, I remember a lot of those bands coming out, and I was in full on rejection of that. But
but you secretly loved it. We all secretly liked it. We just had to make fun of someone. We were like, no, those guys are gay. And then we were like, yeah, but it's
well, I like, and this probably doesn't give me any street cred, but I love Copeland. Like, Copeland is one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But actually, I didn't start. So I grew up in the '90s, but I was listening to R&B. So what my parents were very musical, and we would actually, for like Friday and Saturday nights, we would just sit in our living room and play songs for each other. Like, my dad would be like, here guys, check this song out. And my mom would do it. My dad listened to classic rock. My mom listened to like AM pop radio stuff. And so I got like, I was very pop influenced, but rock influenced as well. But when I was younger, in my early teen years, when Nirvana was huge, I didn't even listen to Nirvana. I was listening to Boyz II Men. I had like this elaborate antenna with the tinfoil and everything, so I could get in the hip hop and R&B station from the city, like 40 miles from my house, and that's what I was listening to. And then when I got into rock, it was like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains. And to answer your question, I think that I have a lot of that grunge influence, but there's this it's got to have a groove to it, because I've got that R&B, and which I still love R&B. It's still some of my favorite music. And so I would say I like big, heavy with some groove, and kind of mix all that together. Now, I never considered that this is only in hindsight when I went back and listened to my records now. And I didn't think that I was actually lifting from this band. I had no idea I was doing it. But the band Taproot, I actually go back and listen to them. I'm like, man, I was like robbing from these guys and I didn't even realize it. So, but of course that was new metal. New metal had groove to it, you know? So I think the groove element, it was a big part of my playing.
Well, look at when Jimmy Page was confronted by a reporter about stealing black music. He said, "Hey, we're professionals, and amateurs imitate, professionals steal." So you're fine in my book. It's a great quote. But yeah, so a lot of influences there. I'll tell you what, let's do the music clips just in case you have to go, Brandon. I know you've got work and I want to get to you. So the clip you sent me, what I want to do is I want to play it and then maybe you talk about it a little bit, give us the backstory on maybe where it was recorded, how it came about, or whatever information you want to give us on it. And then we'll talk about it and we'll go around to each one. Yours, I think, was the shortest. I think you just gave me about 20 seconds. So we're going to get a 20-second clip of this song. Let me add it here. Here we go. What the heck was that? Did it stop? There we go. Okay, there we go. It looked like it kind of looped there. Yeah. I like those. I like those toms though at the end. Those were nice. So yeah, it's got a really nice groove to it. Give us a little info on it.
So we spent, I said I was in the band for 7 years. We pretty much kept rewriting the first album like 3 times before it made it, big or whatever. So this would have been the second version of the album, the first album. And then, each time we would take a couple songs off and add a couple and we would, reimagine them a little bit. But this song was called Hurricane, and it's about a guy that loses his entire family in an accident. And this is kind of unusual for the time, the mid 2000s, but it was actually a concept album covering the life of a man. Our band's name was Rains, and that actually came. Me and the lead singer worked in a factory with a guy named David Rains, and I was like, well, we should just have this kind of write an album about this not his real life, but a guy that works in a factory, and we imagine all these different things that he lives through because we were only 20 years old. We hadn't lived through a whole lot. And so that was kind of the genesis of the first record, and it was called Stories. And so it was just a series of snapshots in the life of a guy that in various times in his life.
Well, I'll let you know we have the real David Rains with us here. He's here to sue you for copyright infringement. It's David.
Well, now the lead singer he's legally changed his name to Rains, and so it's a whole thing. But so we wrote. So that was the second iteration of that record, which it was never released. So the first 2 versions of it were never actually released. And then the final version, 2009, that was recorded in Toronto. I don't remember what the studio was called. I was out of the band at the time. But then that ended up getting, had a couple Sirius XM Octane hits on it, and it was on the radio. I know I'm going to rabbit trail here a little bit, but I'll get back to what you originally asked about the song. But I became a Christian in 2010. The band blew up in 2011, 2012. And at the time, I genuinely didn't. I associated all the sin in my life with what I was doing in my band. All the debauchery and the hedonism. And so I genuinely just turned a blind eye to everything that was going on. But I'd have people coming up to me and going, "Brandon, your band's on the radio. Brandon, your band's on the radio." And I was like, I don't care. Like, whatever. Let them do what they're going to do. And it was only, it was almost a decade before I spoke to the lead singer again. And we we kind of reconciled on some things that there was some beef that we had, and it was only then that I learned, what had happened with the band, because I just didn't want to follow it, didn't want to know what was going on. But to go back to that song, that was a song we used to close our shows with. And I call it, like, it has this mammoth chords, like woolly mammoth, just kind of lumbering and driving its way through. And so, yeah, that's the song Hurricane. And that was, I call it the Lost Record. It's the second album, but and that was produced by a guy named Sahaj Tikatin, who is the lead singer of a band called Ra that had some hits in the early 2000s. We recorded that in his house. He had a home studio, and so.
Yeah, sounded pretty good. What do you think, guys? Cody, Cory, could you listen to that?
Yeah, I definitely got the influence from all the bands that he was talking about. I mean, that sounded very, circa 99, 2000, 2001, again, Days of the New, all of that kind of Mad Season, if you remember that. You
guys remember a band called Alter Bridge?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There was a song on there that kind of reminded just those kind of really clean mammoth chord guitar kind of strokes like he's talking about. I was all for that in like 2002, 3, and 4.
Hell, so was I, man.
Clearly.
But now it's dad rock. I was scrolling one night, and there was this guy, this Xennial or whatever, and he was listening to a band called Crossfade, and it was talking about, like, well, this is dad rock. And I was like, I used to hang out with those guys. I played a show with them, and it's like, that's dad rock. So, but I'm in my 40s, so, I'm a dad. Yeah.
All right. Next one up. The way I had to do this is make a video. So I just put your Westminster Effects logo on there, Cody.
Hey, it's free promotion, whatever, man.
There you go. That's what we're going to see. But we're going to listen to a full song here. I don't mind going full song if you guys don't mind. Is that okay? Because that's what you sent me.
As long as it's not my full song, I don't mind.
I'll tell you what. I want to definitely catch the end of your song, Cory, because I think it's pretty awesome. The top end of it, I have some comments on, but let's go to Cody first.
As do I.
Believe me, you guys will have some on mine too. Mine was 21 years ago, so it is what it is. I was 19 when I recorded it. But here we go. We're gonna go with Cody's. Then you can.
Push your
All right, there we go. I love a song that goes from full to halftime interchangeably.
Yeah.
It's good stuff,
We've
and
got
I can
more of
definitely
that
hear I can definitely hear the influence of what you're talking about, My Chemical Romance and Panic, that kind of era for sure. But tell us a little bit about the song.
Yeah, so this one's called "There Are Four Lights." It's the
that is not the Picard Star Trek reference, is it?
Yes.
Oh yes.
So I'm actually not responsible for that part. Our original bassist is responsible for that. So we're putting out 2 EPs to make up a concept album. So there you go, Brandon. Concept albums all day.
Nice.
And there's actually a big in terms of concepts, it's closer to like a Coheed and Cambria type of concept, but it tells the story of Martin Luther and the Reformation in science fiction format. The funny thing is Roman Catholicism is depicted as a virus. However, all of this stuff was written pre-COVID, like before the Wuhan lab was a twinkle in Fauci's eye. So,
right.
So There Are Four Lights. This is the last song on the first EP that we'll hopefully have out in the next couple of months. Like my favorite lyrics are in the breakdown. I'm doing the lows on that one. So the breakdown goes, "Now do the bodies bother you, or are you too blind to see the blood is up to your knees? This plague is all around us. It's spreading to our souls. And I hate to say it, but I'm just like you, another silent voice holding a healing truth." And so, you got the parallels all around.
Sure.
And so this has been in the works for a long, long time. It's in terms of the original lineup, it's my wife and me at this point. But we've got friends and who are permanent members and friends who are helping us out with all kind of different stuff, and we're pretty stoked with how this one turned out. So
yeah, no, it's good stuff. Now I'm gonna say, and then I'll throw it to you guys too, because I want to hear Brandon and Cory talk about it. But so the melodic the melodic lead in the vocals, absolutely love. Not a huge me just personally, I'm not a huge fan of like kind of screamo and which that's fine. I still love the song. I'm just saying I really enjoyed the halftime. I really enjoyed who's lead singing on this, because they have great vocals.
It's depending on what part. It's either me or our third guitarist / other cleans guy that we kind of split. I'm a big fan of doing back and forth type vocals.
Yeah,
and so we layer that as much as we can.
No, you sound great, man. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, rock, man. I love it. It was great.
Thank you.
And I really like that bass breakdown there towards the end there. That was pretty sick. So, Cory?
I was a fan of I love the abrupt end, just kind of that you just go from, you're bringing it to boom, I mean, just kind of like you hit the brakes because the car in front of you stopped, I mean, just, there's something about that I just think is compelling. I definitely heard Thursday, The Used, groups like that, again, screamo,
the influence. Yeah.
Ever since Saturday, I've been I've been working on I can't
not that one.
I'm not a Disturbed fan.
I can't get it to make words yet, but I'm getting the tone. I just can't get words out yet. So kudos to you for
the trick to any kind of guttural thing. So this is it's more of a I can't remember the term. It's not a fry scream. It's a false chord scream. So you think of an exasperated teenager going, and then and that's all there is to it
for me.
That's all there is to it. You just relax everything as much as possible. And then you form. You don't actually say things. You're not properly enunciating. You're just making those sounds. So if you think of it that way, it becomes a lot easier.
Oh, look at that. Again, we just all learned something.
Having done musical theater, that is literally the opposite, so I can show you the world. You know, I mean, where
Right.
you're enunciating everything and opening your mouth. You know, I mean, and it's just it's hyperbolic to an obnoxious degree.
Now, there are guys who are really, really good at enunciation. I think specifically of Will Ramos of Lorna Shore, where he's such a good extreme metal vocalist that there's a couple of videos on YouTube of an ENT specialist scoping his throat to see what his vocal cords are doing. Like they numb it up and all that. And they're like, all right, do, your growls, your pig squeals, whatever. And it's ridiculous what's going on in there.
Wow.
So where was this one recorded at? How'd you guys record?
So it's very DIY recorded.
Okay.
The guitars were all the guitars and the vocals were all recorded in this room. As were the drums with MIDI. So I'm a big fan of MIDI drums because, if he screws up, okay, we'll just drag that crash over a little bit and stuff like that. So my boy Daniel Albertson, shout out to him, recovering from a big old surgery, but he mixed it for us and it sounds huge. He did some really cool stuff with it.
Awesome. All right. We're going to move on here to Cory's. I want to hear his. Let's listen to the whole thing. Let's see if we can get through it here. I think we got time.
That's a great way of putting it.
No. I wasn't saying that. I was saying time-wise, brother.
Now, mind you, as a caveat to anyone watching, I am 47 years old. I wrote this 30 years ago, I think. I was 16 or 17 when I wrote this song. Lyrically, again, our guitarist and I kind of collaborated on a lot of the music. I will take ownership because I won't throw him under the bus. The horrible harmonica idea was my idea. And I apologize in advance. That was a terrible idea. We were still trying to find, kind of our sound. So yeah, go ahead.
What's crazy? It's a great song. It is. The harmonica seems a little out of place in the beginning, but I want to listen to the whole thing because I really like the ending too. So here we go. And we're going to start at the beginning. Sorry, guys. All right. Bass. I like it as a drummer. Oh, see, I like that ending. I like that abrupt ending there. Yeah, I skipped a little bit ahead there just because I forgot you gave me the Leonard Skinner Freebird version. That was 19 minutes
Yeah,
long.
you had the whole bridge. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. You had the bridge. You had the yeah. Again, this is the 90s, man. You were
90s,
yeah.
and then you said 16, 17, 18. I mean, that's awesome, dude, for that age and laying that down. And
That's
I mean, you guys
significantly
sounded
more
like you were together.
That's significantly more mature than the crap I was writing at 16, 17, 18. So
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
so recorded. That was recorded at a local studio back in the day. Now, again, I'm going to date myself. This is pre-digital, so this was all done on what back in those days was called a DAT master recording. So you'd go in and lay down tape, and studio time was, I mean, crazy expensive.
Yeah.
This was probably recorded in 97. So writable CDs are still new. It cost us $35 a CD to get it burnt.
Wow.
So we had about 7 CDs made, one for each member of the band, and then a couple to send around to local Christian radio stations, which we did. And we got airtime on some of the local Christian stations here in the greater Charlotte community, and even as far down as like Columbia, South Carolina, because I was going to college down there at the time. And there was a Christian music station on campus at the college where I attended. So I mean, we were getting some airplay. We played a couple of festivals and things with some pretty good sized Christian bands of their day. And met Skillet back when, and I say Skillet because obviously
yes, sir,
Cody's connection. I met Skillet back when their first album was their new album. When it was the one with the skillet on the cover.
Yeah.
Great album.
Forefront Records. They were a 3-piece at the time, and man, yeah. And John was the nicest guy in the world, even back then. He would never remember me, but I remember him because of how kind he was to a bunch of nobodies like us. Whereas like the guys from Newsboys and some of those guys didn't have the time of day. I mean, they just, we tried to like talk to them and see them. Didn't have the time of day for us, but I was telling Cody, actually, and I'll get back to the song. I was telling Cody on Saturday when I saw him, because he mentioned an old kind of, almost like an 80s hair band, or at least they were back in my day. Their sound has probably matured since then. But when I saw a Christian group called Disciple back in the mid 90s, they were still like an 80s hair band.
Seen them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they were good. I'm not saying they weren't good, but they were very, very arena rock, kind of 80s hair metal. And I saw them at a small festival in Shelby, North Carolina. And it was them and a group called Johnny Q Public and Miss Angie and all these small Christian bands, and Larry Norman. Larry Norman was still living. He is one of the godfathers of Christian rock and roll. And it was such a small thing that we all got to kind of spend a little time with Larry, which was again, I look back and I'm like, what an incredible opportunity. I don't know that I actually appreciated it at the time. So that album, and it was just a 4-song EP. That album was recorded here at a local studio. A guy named Jeremy Amick mixed it and produced it for us. We were a 4-piece. The album, or that song and the album that it came from, was our second drummer. Our first drummer was a guy we went to high school with. He decided to leave the band. Our second drummer was a guy a bit older than us. He was married by the time that we met. And he had been influenced, Bonham, Keith Moon, huge influence by Keith Moon. And I think one of the greatest drummers of all time, who does not get the credit he deserves because of his brother, and you'll know who I mean here in a second, Alex Van Halen. I think Alex Van Halen is one of the greatest drummers that's ever played rock and roll music. I think he gets overshadowed by his brother because, of course, who his brother is. But yeah, the double bass. I mean, our drummer, he would show up with a whole cage and like 3 or 4 ride cymbals and 4 or 5 crash cymbals and like a gong sitting behind. It was ludicrous. I mean, our lead guitarist was most heavily influenced by Sunny Day Real Estate and REM. And then we had a drummer that was influenced by Alex Van Halen and Keith Moon. So it was very, very weird. And then I just tried to fit in wherever I could fit in. But I wrote that song, like I said, I was 16 or 17, based obviously on the verse that says that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. That whole concept, that idea of God's economy being totally opposite of what the world understands, that really impacted me as a kid. Still impacts me, but I remember being, around that age and thinking, I want to know more about this God. If everything because again, it was the 90s. Even a kid like me that grew up in a good Christian middle class to upper middle class home, you still were pissed off at the world for whatever reason. I look back now and I'm like, I don't know why we were all so angry, but you were angsty. It was the 90s. You were pissed off at something just because it was the era of being that way. But so it was very powerful to me, that concept of the economy in the kingdom of God being so upside down. So we recorded that there.
I like the. Oh,
go ahead. No, I never played the harmonica, and I still don't.
And that's his story, and he's sticking to it. I like the guitar solo towards the end of the song. I feel like I saw Brandon nodding over there. I feel like, Brandon, that this was something in your vein too. Like, you could probably have listened to this or something, right?
Well, it was definitely from my era, and I could see kids rocking out to it. See, two things that I would say about it was, one, you had a good hook, which I'm always listening for the hook. And so you had a good hook. The chorus is a great hook. And two, I think a live recording of this song would have really captured like you guys rocking out, and would have been something, because there's certain songs, that obviously when you're young and you're in the artist development phase, there's things that you don't like. Right. But, and so we all get that. I have things in early songs that we track that I don't like, but there's also certain songs that when you hear it recorded, it just doesn't sound the same as when you hear it live. And I can just tell with this song that live, it was something different. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, moving right along. We'll go to mine. I just want to give you a little preference as well, too. 19 years old. This was the first time we recorded anything as a group. We used Pro Tools. It was in 2003, and we absolutely hated it. And then the next two songs we recorded, we went to a recording studio that is infamous. It's a little hole in the wall in Taylor, Michigan. Led Zeppelin, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Cream, Eric Clapton, AC/DC, you name it. They've recorded there, and
Flex.
they owned. What's that?
Flex.
What? No. I'm just saying. We happened to be friends. My lead singer was in a band that was on some, in some movies and signed to a major and did national touring. So we kind of had some connections. So they had a Neve board there, one of two left, and we recorded on 2-inch fat tape, just like Cory was talking about, and that turned out a lot better. So
and on a Neve board too. Goodness. Yeah,
and it's still there to this day. That's the only other one that they have with all the modules. What's his name has from
Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's got it.
Yeah, Sun City. So the only reason I say that is because you can tell this is a first time digital. Nothing was mastered, nothing was engineered. And I'm playing drums on it. So here we go. And I just got about a minute for mine. I think it's 1 minute and 10 seconds. It's just the middle of the song. Here we go. All right, let's start them at the beginning. I don't know why they're all starting.
Good, she gave me sweet loving like my baby should. So tell me what you see. Reach out and touch, but it's not me. The moment that she cried, I could see it in her eyes. Lord, I've been in me time. No. Lord, I've been in me time. No. Lord, I've been in me time. No. Lord, I've been in me Never thought my love would last. 10,000 years have passed. Never thought my love would last. 10,000
right, we get it. There we go. Yeah, so that one, I almost wanted to show you guys the one that we did on tape because it's the quality is so much better. And you just go, and it's just funny because Cory, you were saying how you were like, oh, we actually had to record on tape because we didn't really have digital. And then we were in an era where we had cheap digital. But then when you went and recorded on tape with actual, engineers and mixers and stuff help too, producers, you go, man, it just sounds so much better. And now digital has gotten so darn good. I think it's just as good as what it was 30 years ago on tape. What do you guys think?
Well, like if you had some basic EQ, like you mentioned, you didn't have anything really mastered or anything like that. If you have some like basic EQ on that guitar to make it a little less ice picky,
yeah,
right? Like he's got good riffs. Like the guitarist has good chops. The bass line's really good. The vocalist can obviously sing.
Yep.
Like.
Yeah,
that drummer though. Like,
the drummer sucked.
I love,
but no, it's a good song.
I love the sound of the kick and the snare. I mean, I just like that sound. So I was digging it.
Yeah,
it was
cool.
It was a great drum sound. I will say, I think that tape is always going to be superior. I mean, listen to anything made from around. It depends on who and where, because England and America had different technology for a while in the late 60s and early 70s. But by mid 70s to about 78, 79, some of the best production that you'll ever hear. Like, just hands down, it's just, and I'm thinking of like, not just Steely Dan, but there's some great soul records and R&B records that just, the depth of the sound is there's bar none. But then in the early 80s, they started doing weird crap, like trying to make everything sound tiny and thin and small, and it sounds like crap. But
trying to go lo-fi,
chorus pedal on it.
Yeah, and going lo-fi intentionally. I agree. You go back to like the Swampers, which of course Leonard Skinner name drops them in Sweet Home Alabama.
Muscle Shoals, the Muscle Shoals guys,
down at Muscle Shoals, where the three guys that ran that, and were not only ran the studio, but they were the studio musicians. They refer to as the Swampers. And I mean, you get albums coming out of Muscle Shoals, or you get albums coming out of some of the stuff in Detroit, Smokey Robinson, and I mean, it's primo. Early Sun Records, they're Memphis. I would have to agree. I think tape is, and now what of that at a guy who's pushing toward 50 is nostalgia. I openly admit that. Quickly onto your song though. I loved that. Every era has these bands that are kind of very hard to pigeonhole. They're really hard to kind of say what they are and what they, and from that song alone, don't know anything else you guys did. You guys had this, again, I would have been very hard to pigeonhole what you do, as far as there was a very 60s kind of almost psychedelic vibe to it. The vocals were the vocals reminded me of one of my favorite vocalists, which I did not get to do. So I'm going to do that real quick. And my apologies for taking some time, but my, again, whether they're influences or just guys that so mine would break into two categories, and I don't have a single one because there's just too many really good ones. So my two categories would be vocal technique, as far as who just has the best range and just can, hit the most notes and do so with crystal clarity and just gorgeous tone and pitch. Of course, I'd have to say Freddie Mercury's on that list.
Oh yeah.
Lane Staley is on that list for me. So Brandon, I agree. I think Lane Staley is one of the best vocalists that's ever sang, period. He could hit almost like 2 octaves or 2.5 octaves. He could hit high notes that you never heard him really do unless you went and saw them in Saul Alice in Chains in concert, because on their albums, they stayed in that kind of muddy, tone that they became known for. He'd hit stuff in concert that was like a C4, C5, which is insane high. I mean, like that's baritones are not hitting those notes, and Lane Staley could just, I mean, the dude could belt. It was crazy. And then I have emotive singers that, whether they're the best quality of singer or not is up for debate, but you feel when they sing. And I think the best emotive singer maybe ever in any genre is George Jones. I think if you turn on a George Jones record, you're going to feel something. You know, I don't care if you like country music, you listen to He Stopped Loving Her Today, or probably, I think his best song for emotiveness is The Grand Tour. You listen to George
that's a good
Jones, The
one.
Grand Tour.
Love that one.
You're
I
gonna
like if
Go ahead.
drinking don't kill me, her memory will. That's a good one.
I mean, it just, if you can listen to George Jones and feel nothing, the problem's not him, it's you. It's just, he's incredible. And then I've got two guys that kind of bridge that gap for me, who both have the incredible talent and the emotiveness. Well, there's a second emotive guy that I would say that, which would be Billy Corgan. I think Billy Corgan's a great emotive singer. Again, talent, that's up for debate. You might like his style, you might not, because he goes from that, disarm you with a smile, breathy stuff, to can you like you? I mean, you're either into that or you're not. Right. But he is emotive, and I like him. And then there's two guys that I think bridge the gap between talent and emotive, and that would be Chris Cornell. I think one of the greatest vocalists, both emotive and talent ever, and Scott Weiland. I think, and I say all that to say, your vocalist, Greg, from that song reminded me in parts of Scott Weiland, of kind of that, just.
We were down with all those guys you just mentioned. So for sure. I think go ahead, Brandon.
Well, I just would say I do have to run. I hate to leave, guys, especially because we're talking the way we're talking is getting good. Can I say something real quick, though, about kind of something really cool providentially? Because the whole reason I'm on this podcast right now is actually because of my band that I was in the 2000s. So let me explain. So in about 2004, I was living in Virginia with my band, and we came back to Indiana to record with a particular producer. And we spent an entire week in the studio. This was for our first full length record. And then we went back to Virginia. I quit the band. I quit the band multiple times, so we cut that record. Fast forward to 2021, I think it was. And I'm driving down the road. And remember, I wasn't a Christian until 2010. So I cut this record in 2004. I was not a Christian. In 2021, I'm driving, listening to The Dividing Line. And James White mentions this guy named Tim Bushong. And he's the guy that does the intro to Radio Free Geneva. Yeah. And I was like, that name sounds familiar. Where do I know that name? Oh, he's the producer of my first album. So I reach out to Tim. I just started going to a Reformed church. I reach out to Tim. We reconnect. I'm like, I don't think you remember me, but like 15 years ago, I cut a record in your studio. Now I'm a Christian. I'm a Reformed Christian. I find out he's post-mill. Long story short, Tim and I connect because he lives in my area. I only live, 20 minutes from Tim now. And Tim was at my first conference. And so had I not reconnected with Tim by hearing about it on The Dividing Line, had I not recorded a record with him, I don't think Eschatology Matters would have started, and I wouldn't be here right now. So I think that's just a really cool providential story. I just want to leave it at that. So.
No, absolutely. Thanks for coming on tonight too, Brandon. And that's where I kind of wanted to wrap up the show too, after we talk about what Cory brought up. But yeah, the providence of God, right? Like literally my story is what I meant for evil, God meant for good. And I was absolutely shaking my fist in the air at God, hate you, don't want you, don't need you. And he definitely had different plans for me. And I think for all of us, which is why I really wanted to do this episode too. I know we've been dwelling a lot on the before music part of it. Maybe even either not being a Christian then, or, early in our walk, but yeah, Brandon, thanks for jumping on. If you got to jump off, go ahead. And we love you, brother.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to listen to the rest of this on my way to work.
You're awesome.
Oh, it's actually, it's not wait, it's not live. I'll have to
It's not
wait.
live.
Sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
But
Yeah, see you
Cody,
guys later.
all right.
See you,
See you,
Brandon.
man. Cody, what are your emotive lead singers, like Cory was saying? Because there was a few in there that he gave me that I agree with, and I'd probably add a few, but I'm interested to know where you're at on that.
Lead singers. I mean, all of mine are going to be like in the more aggressive stuff. Obviously, I have to agree with stuff like Freddie Mercury, right?
Yeah.
Just such a good singer. But
Claudio, go ahead and say Claudio.
Claudio Sanchez, absolutely, of Coheed and Cambria. He's just so distinctive and so good at carrying exactly how angry, happy, weird he wants to be. I don't remember his name, but the guy for Architects, particularly in their albums about 6-7 years ago, has such an interesting way of carrying screams to where they sound both melodic and like his throat is being ripped out. So that's just super interesting. And, Jordan of Newfound Glory. Newfound Glory was a big influence on me too, and underrated guitar tone, if we're being honest. So, and really fun live band.
I put, Chris Cornell. It's probably the one artist that both my wife and I both like. We have very different tastes in music. She was a really big fan of him, but even before I met her and started dating her, I was a big fan. You can hear, man, it's so sad too when you learn the way that he passed away, and when you listen to his lyrics, even later on in like Audio Slave, when he's just kind of emoting with his voice, and there's a phrase he keeps saying, "Tell me how to live. Tell me, you created me this way. Tell me how to live." And you could just go, man, this guy is really struggling with his creator and his maker, and going, I'm confused. And I like when a voice, no matter what genre, and I'm very broad on my genres, I will listen to anything if it's musically sound, any genre, if your voice is conveying that emotion, just like you were saying, Cody, it's like I'm hooked. You know what I mean?
I've had the same thought about Jesse Lacey of Brand New. Particularly in the album The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me. Interestingly, you talk about providence. Our church is, so our worship minister is putting a psalm a month to music to help the church memorize scripture and learn the psalms and all that kind of stuff. And this month, Psalm 13, and the guitar part that I came up with kind of reminded me of their song Jesus Christ, which is one of the saddest songs I have ever heard. But
I'm gonna have to go listen to it. I'm not familiar with it. Okay.
Gosh, grab a box of tissues if you skew toward that end of the spectrum. Yeah,
but I put Robert Plant on there for me too. I'm just a big Zeppelin guy, so I got to throw Robert in there. Yep. Believe it or not, I grew up on and played piano against and played many of his songs was Keith Green. Many people wouldn't probably say emotive vocalist, but for a lyricist, I rather enjoyed it. Just some very quick, sometimes sarcastic, sometimes very smart, intelligent lyrics in there. Just if we're throwing people out there.
I always say he was the Rich Mullins of the 70s, or Rich was the Keith Green of the 90s and 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Very similar guys.
Yeah. But Billy Joel, I mean, that's pretty much who he's emulating, Keith Green. Yeah. Billy Joel's another one. But I mean, we're just listing, classic
talent,
band.
Just talent.
Yeah, talent.
When guys get together, start listing off random 90s athletes. Oh, you remember Tony Graffinino?
Yeah. Remember Ryan Sandberg from
Chester
the Cubs?
Bennington. Chester Bennington, when you guys say that guys that were crying out from the void and begging for someone to listen, Chester Bennington, you go back and listen to those Linkin Park albums. And I mean, that poor guy it was very open. You go back and look after what happened and you're like, how did we miss it? I mean, the guy was basically saying, please, someone help me. I mean,
well, look, we're going to have to do a whole nother episode on the conspiracy theory that Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington did not unalive themselves.
That they knew about that they knew about the stuff that was going on Epstein.
They knew about Pizzagate. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm just saying, there's some stuff out there about
the providence of God, though, because I would be remiss not to say how that ties in.
Yeah.
So music's always been a big part of my life. Unlike you guys, it wasn't in my family, not in the way that you guys meant it. None of my family is musical, other than my dad was a music fiend, as far as just he consumed a lot of music. So I grew up in a house where I was bombarded by music. You know, he was into ZZ Top, and he was into you know, a lot of that. This is going to sound awful, but it was true. What was like stripper music and of that day, you know, like what you'd hear, like, I mean, that sounds terrible, but like that type of you know, that type of just that kind of rock music. But he was also into like Southern gospel, and my mom and her family were into like big bands, and then into like, and I mean classic R&B. So I mentioned Smokey Robinson earlier. I'm talking like that R&B, you know, prior to it getting super dirty, super smutty. You know, when it was really like Motown, you know, the Motown stuff. And hold on, I'm gonna switch cameras because my other camera, is
I lost the video.
So thankfully I have this one. But as far as providentially, because music's always been a big part of my life, and one of my favorite genres of music is bluegrass, oddly enough. There was a church here close to where we live about 9 years ago. Someone here locally said, "Aren't you into bluegrass?" And I said, "Yeah, I love bluegrass. It's one of my favorite styles of music, especially live." There are some, and one of you said this earlier, I think it was Brandon, said that, you know, our song would sound better live. There are some musics that just do. Jazz is one of them. Blues is one of them. Bluegrass is one of them.
Bluegrass is another one. Absolutely.
You got to see it live to really appreciate the showmanship and the artistry of it. And so someone here locally said, "Man, there's this tiny little Presbyterian church like 10 minutes from your house that the first Saturday of every month they have live bluegrass." And a lot of it's just local regional stuff, but it's not bad. If you're into the music, you'd probably enjoy it. So a little over 9 years ago, I you know, said, "Hey, sweetie, I'm going to run over to this little local church, and I'm going to go see a bluegrass show tonight." She had just given birth to our first child, and I went and I stepped in the fellowship hall of Shearer Presbyterian Church for the first time. And we had been looking for a church for like over a year, and we're in the Bible Belt, so we had visited a ton because there's churches everywhere, but that doesn't mean they're all good. Actually, a lot of them are not. So I got home from that show, which was unremarkable. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was nothing special. But boy, did God use it. And I met the pastor and some of the other, you know, some wonderful people, just down to earth folk. And I got home that night, and my wife said, "Well, sweetie, you know, how was the show?" And I said, "The show was fine. What would you think about visiting this church tomorrow?" Because it was Saturday night. And she said, "Well, why not? We visited like every other church in the area." And we walked in the next morning, and we've never left. And I was selling real estate and thought that because of some of my own past, some of my own sins, some of my own mistakes, that I was never going to be. I thought God was calling me into ministry at 18 or 19 years old. That's why I went to Bible college. And then my life took a couple of U-turns. And again, because of me, I'm not going to blame anyone but me. And I thought that ship had sailed, you know. And so it would be through music and through that concert and through being exposed to this church that God would put me in contact with, yes, the pastor, but also some of the elders, and they would start nursing me back to health. And I didn't even know that I was that church hurt. I mean, I knew that I had some stuff, but I mean, they dug stuff out that I was like, whoa, I didn't. Okay. Then they approached me about being a deacon, and I was like, "Hey, I can't, you know, there's just too much stuff in my past." And they said, "Well, let's sit down. Are you brave enough to sit in front of the session and talk through your sin?" And I said, what have I got to lose? So sure. I did. And they said, "What's the problem?" You know, so I served. And then they said, "What do you think about being an elder?" And I hesitate to take any credit because, of course, it was all God. But the only thing that I would ever tell anyone that I did right, if that's even saying it properly, is I was too stupid to ever say anything but yes. I just kept saying yes. So would you teach a Sunday school class? Yeah. Would you serve as an elder? Sure. Hey, if we paid for you to go to seminary and all you had to do was buy books,
yeah,
would you go to seminary and think about maybe preaching?
Well, I mean, I had an old country pastor tell me, God's just looking for people to say yes. Now I don't know if and he's a friend to this day, and I probably disagree with most of his theology, but I like that saying, like he's looking for obedience, and people go, okay, yeah, let's do it, God, I'm here. Not that he isn't sovereign overall, but you understand what I'm saying. Cody,
Oh, yeah.
Cody, did you have a time period in your life with music where it was like not being under the headship of God, or maybe rebelling or anything like that? Or have you always, because I don't know all of your backstory, or have you always liked music and you understood it was for, to glorify God and all that stuff, and used it for that your whole life?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I've been involved with music since I was 13.
Yeah. Young.
And I grew up in the Church of Christ, which is all a cappella. My entire family has reformed at this point,
Praise God.
Of God. And my dad is an elder at our church and all that good stuff. But I wouldn't say that I was making music during high-handed rebellion. There were definitely times when I didn't understand grace alone through faith alone.
Sure.
Absolutely, there was that. But in terms of providence, maybe she'll tear up when she hears this, but I owe my marriage to being in a band. and I will absolutely tip my former black-haired emo swoop past here. And I met my wife while I was working at Hot Topic.
Okay.
And my stupid line is I checked her out and I checked her out. Basically, she learned that we needed a guitarist in a band that I was in at the time, and she tried out, and we took her.
Yeah, you did. You guys were like, yeah, she's already in, guys.
Yeah, no. And she'll admit, like, she wasn't good. She had only been playing for a couple of years at that point, and we took her anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're like, I'm gonna marry this broad. Come on.
But, yeah, right. And I had a lip ring and everything at the time. And but here we are, 15 plus years later or something like that. Been married for 11 years.
Amen.
Coming up in August.
Am I
doing my math right? And so you got the positive end of providence, and then even the negative end. Like our original lineup was talented in this band, and by God's grace, we didn't get big. That would not. I don't think that would have gone well. And at this point, I think it's me, my wife, and our original bassist who actually still claim the faith out of 6. So half of the band, in some form or fashion, either I don't see them posting about it or they've outright apostatized. And, so that was God keeping us in his grace sovereignly through having people take themselves too seriously in a band.
I think I saw some pictures of your wife on Facebook. Either you posted them or maybe I'm friends with her. I don't know anymore. I got so many things going through my algorithm. And it was something recently where she was playing, and I was like, hey, I know her husband. I don't think you were in any of the pictures. Did you post that?
No, that would have been all her.
Okay.
I haven't posted her on the Westminster Effects feed recently. We're going to soon. You got to promote. And
I mean, she looked like a legitimate rock star. I was like, and she's doing the thing. I'm like, and she's playing really well. I'm like, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So give her kudos from me.
Will do. It's a lot. I tell people all the time, it's a lot of fun being married to another guitarist. Where instead of, hey, why do you hole up in your office? It's like, no, we'll do that at the same time. But then also every now and then we will actually, hey, let's go over that song. We need to, iron out that breakdown or whatever.
You guys don't argue. You just have a solo off.
No, neither of us are super solo-y types, but You don't want me to solo.
Every time I look down at my camera here, I just look like how we look like two in the token land. We're like two elves, and then we have our dwarf here sitting at our table. Look how much lower he is than us. For those of you guys listening, go watch this on YouTube. He is a full 2 foot. I mean, he's like Gimli. Look,
Yeah,
at
we got Gimli over here. And my axe.
You guys, that's awesome. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, Cory, but it's just funny how I don't know why you aren't framed the same. All right, let's bring this thing home, guys. We've been talking for a little bit. It's a pretty long episode, but I really enjoyed everyone that came on, especially you guys sticking around. I wanted to, and like I said, we didn't want to just talk about music, but we did get into the providence of God, how he, and like I said, how he used my sin and my rebellion for ultimate good, what I learned from that. It was just awesome how I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And God said, oh yeah, I will take everything you have away in about 48 hours. And that's car, job, girlfriend, house, license, band, tour, everything. Just went away miraculously and allowed me to go, well, maybe I still have Christ. And I did. And I had Christ, and he turned me towards him, which is part of my testimony. So I look back on those times too and go, even the Lord then was doing something, even in my depravity. But before we leave here, I have to ask this. It's a Fresh 10 question that I do. I used to say, what's your favorite band? I don't do that anymore. Or favorite movie. I don't say that. I say, and I want both you guys to answer, and I'm going to give you 3 because I know you guys are musicians. You have a lot of people in your head that you listen to. What are 3 bands or songs that you can just put on and listen to and you find yourself going back to, whether that's once a week, once a month, once a year, but you find yourself returning to that song or that band, and it's just kind of comfort, and you can go, I can just listen to the album. Cody, let's start with you.
So I am an album guy.
Okay.
I don't care if a band has a couple of good singles. If I can't listen to an album front to back, I don't care.
Yeah.
And the last couple of years, I've just been killing Pain Remains by Lorna Shore front to back. It is, Greg, you won't like it because of it. There are no clean vocals, but just give it a listen.
Okay, I will.
The instrumentals are amazing. The vocals fit perfectly. You can tell he thought meticulously about whether it was a pig squeal, whether it was a growl or whatever. Like, it's meticulously done all the way through. And it being a deathcore album, there are key changes. There's, I think, 2 key changes in the middle of songs in that album, which you don't get in metal ever. So Pain Remains by Lorna Shore, I've been killing it the last couple of years.
Now, I've heard you say pig whistle twice, and I don't know what that is.
Pig
I probably
squeal.
know, or pig squeal. Well,
Yeah.
What is that? Like,
I am not skilled in that, but if you
Okay.
look it up, just pig squeals for death metal, deathcore
like the high pitched one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know what a real pig squeal sounds like.
Right. It's close enough.
I know. Me and Cory are sitting here going, we're old enough now. We probably have some pigs in our in our purview.
You'll hear people joke about how certain music there's just like brie brie brie. Turn that into sounding more like a pig, and there you go.
How about you, Cory? What are you going to? What's your comfort album, comfort song? Maybe you're working out in the yard, you're studying something, and you just go, "Yep, I'm back to it. I'm listening to it."
So if I'm studying, it's classical.
Fair enough.
If I'm studying, if I'm doing seminary work, if I'm prepping for a sermon or something, I've got classical music. I've got my nice my wife got me a nice pair of the Dr. Dre ones. I know he sold the company, but the Beats, the wireless Beats, and I got those on, and I'm listening to classical music, and it's just the vibe. Albums that I can, because I tend to agree. There are a couple of artists that I go back to, but I'm with Cody. I'm kind of an album guy. So I would say OK Computer and Kid A by Radiohead.
Yeah.
I think those are 2 of the greatest albums ever written, and I can listen to them back to back. Just put one on, roll right into the next one. Picture of an Eighth Wonder by a small Christian band of the 90s called Poor Old Lou. Poor Old Lou, I think, is one of the greatest rock bands, kind of 90s. I don't want to say prog rock because that's like Rush and people, but they again, hard to pigeonhole what Poor Old Lou was doing. So Picture of an Eighth Wonder by Poor Old Lou, Commonwealth by Plank Eye, another 90s Christian
Plank
group.
Eye, forgot about them.
Yeah.
Love Plank Eye. I was a huge Scott Soletta. He was the lead singer. He was a huge influence on what I wanted to do, especially when I was in my band. Kind of contemporaries of each other, and I was like, man, if I could be Scott Soletta, I would be. And the Supertones.
Yes, sir.
I'm a huge OC Supertones fan. I go back to them still. I still like ska music. I still go back to the OC Supertones. They were doing kind of reformed stuff before I was even reformed. I mean, I was Calvinistic in my soteriology even back then, but I didn't know what reformed theology was. And I mean, and he was singing and writing lyrics about reform stuff. Same thing with Caedmon's Call, but the sad reality of that is a lot of them have certainly one of their main singer-songwriters apostatized, Derek Webb. I mean, big time deconstructed. And like tries to now pull people away from Christianity. So I'm like, but yeah, so those are, and honestly, that original Skillet album, I go back, I listened to that like a month ago.
That blew my mind. I was in youth group when that came out, and I was like, oh, Christian music can be this. Because you got to realize, like mid 90s, it was kind of, Matt Chandler does a whole little bit on this in one of his sermons, and I'm not a big Matt Chandler fan, but he has a whole bit about saying like the reason why he's reformed is because people actually got saved from Christian music in the 90s, because a lot of the early stuff, it was just horrible, and it's like back then everything had a thing like AC/DC's Against Christ, Devil's Companions, and you'd throw your CDs in a fire and some kid would go, oh, I heard it hiss, it's a demon. And he's like, no, that's what stuff does when you burn it hisses, like this whole kind of thing. But when what album did you just say? I'm sorry, I got talking. I forgot.
Skillet's first album.
Yeah. With Skillet. That I was gonna say, I'll transition over to mine. For nostalgia, I will go back and listen to the Supertones, and I will listen to Take Me to Your Leader, Newsboys.
Yeah.
Because for me, I saw them live at the Monroe County Fair. They let us go up on stage afterwards, and I got to play the drums. My brother got to play the bass, and they were like hung out with us afterwards. And that was like the first time I was like allowed to listen to, I think I was like 12 or something, like an actual rock. I had the CD, I had a little CD player. So nostalgia wise, Newsboys is definitely one of those. One I can just put in if I'm out working in the yard, and this is just going to show my redneck, and I'm proud of it. I mean, I'm listening to like Second Helpings, Leonard Skinner. I'm putting swamp music on repeat. It's funky, it's groovy. I'm out there doing something with the headphones in. And then if I want to feel country, I'm going to go like Jerry Reed, maybe. You know what I mean? Nice. Listen to him talk about how much he loves cigarettes. I mean, there's a great bit on one of his albums. Go look it up. Just put in Jerry Reed cigarettes. It's hilarious. And then always I can fall into Chris Cornell, probably more Audio Slave years though, because I think that's when they teamed up with Tom Morello.
Yep.
And I just love Tom on a lead guitar, the crazy stuff he did with
Rage Against the Machine.
Thank you. I'm over 40, guys. Sorry.
It's hard to keep all your communists straight at some point, right?
I know. I'm not endorsing Rage. I'm just saying Tom Morello as a guitar player really loved his uniqueness of he had that feel like what Edge would do and stuff in different sounds and different stuff. Yep. But those are definitely mine that I can fall back on. But the funny thing is I really use like secular music, some secular music as entertainment. And as we get out of here, I want to hear what you guys think about this. But I just almost use it as like a time passer. Entertainment. Oh, I listen to that groove. But when I get into like my hymns and my psalms and worship, it is a very serious thing. I do not let the two cross. It's this weird thing to where it is a sacred thing in worship for me. And it's very serious and intimate to where if I'm listening to a secular song, it's more like entertainment, background noise, or I'm going, oh yeah, I like that drum lick or the guitar lick or that drum roll or whatever it is. Is that for you guys too? Is there separation for what that music is used? And the words are much more important to me in worship than it ever is in secular. Heck, I don't even know the lyrics to most of the songs I like. I'm listening to the groove, the beat, the bass, the guitar. What do you got? Where you guys land on that?
Go ahead, Cody.
I'm kind of a mixed bag, honestly.
Okay.
I will listen to, for instance, and I am not endorsing this band, but Behemoth, like I will listen to one of their albums straight through just so I can know how jacked up they are. Right. So
Okay.
I'll do worldview analysis. Like I'll nerd out on lyrics and stuff like that. But then
Okay.
there's the other side of, like I mentioned, Lorna Shore. They actually have some very thought-provoking lyrics. And yes, they drop a couple bombs here and there, but there's some common grace coming through in some of their themes, even if it's in like a photo negative of the gospel. Like we were talking about certain vocalists like Chester Bennington, like you can, or Chris Cornell. They're screaming into the void kind of stuff where it's like they know that something's up, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of crossover. Like, around Christmas, I'll absolutely listen to Handel's Messiah. I'll listen to a hymn here and there and stuff like that. And yes, like glory to God in the highest, right?
Sorry, I'm just laughing because you ruined me by turning me on to the Christmas album that Bad Religion put out years ago.
Right.
And I listened to that thing 3 times. Like,
it's so good. It's so well done. But it's by Bad Religion.
My wife goes, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, "Get out of here."
It's Christmas music. Leave me alone.
That's right.
But yeah, so I'm kind of in the middle, like, yes to all of it,
Yeah.
So.
How about you, Cory?
In listening, not so much. I mean, I'll scan through like Sirius XM and land on Christian stuff, and then go to the Beatles channel. I mean, but as far as
on purpose,
yeah. And then, but like interpersonally, as a vocalist, I only sing Christian music, especially like hymns and psalms and stuff, clean. I don't do any vocal fry. I don't do any. I mean, so like anyone that has known me or saw me sing, I used to tour with a cover band after. I mean, so the thing I sent you was my, original stuff that we did. But I also played and sang with some cover bands over the years, and I've done a lot of other stuff in music. And I mean, and I'll do, especially if I'm doing cover stuff, whatever we're doing, right? But I mean, when I'm singing at church or for any worship context, even here, family worship at home, it's clean. I don't know where the connect or disconnect happens in my mind, but I don't want to feel like I'm bringing any kind of falsity or pretense or whatever when it comes to worship. As far as my listening habits, probably my favorite band of the last 10 years that I listen to more often than probably any band, secular Christian, is a group called the Turnpike Troubadours. They're in Oklahoma, kind of what's called red dirt country. I hate the stuff coming out of Nashville, and I'm a rural Indiana kid. So, I mean, I grew up and from the late 70s. So, I mean, I grew up on good country music from the heartland of when country music was still country. And so, yeah, the stuff that's coming out of Nashville now I hate. So I listen to a lot of like Whiskey Myers, Turnpike Troubadours, that kind of red dirt country that's still kind of very, very country, but talks about life that, again, I went from rural Indiana to rural North Carolina. I mean, can I listen to Dr. Dre or Eminem? I have, but I can't connect with it. I mean, I truly do. I am one of those weird people that believes that music really does connect to the people it's meant for.
Sure.
And so, when someone from a very urban life connects with urban music, I'm like, of course they do. I mean, but if you're singing about, watching your friend get shot in a drive-by, I'm lost. That's not a world I grew up in. It's not a world I understand. My kids feed our goats every morning. And like, when we were taking the dumpster down,
none of the Amish down there by doing drive-bys, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it just,
nor are they singing about boats and hoes.
I mean, it was a lot. Conway Twitty, I understand, it's just, it's just a different life, so, I mean, so as far as listening, no, I mix it up a ton. I mean, and my kids would be a perfect example of that, as I'm sure, Greg, you would say too. Your kids really do become kind of that they're a stamp of whatever you are. Yeah, that's right. For good or ill. That's right. So I mean, my daughter would have probably enjoyed Saturday night. I mean, I went and saw Cody and his band play, and and some other groups very much like Cody and his band. And my 9-year-old daughter would have loved it. My wife would have walked out after about 30 seconds. So I mean, it's just
Right.
There's always sanctification.
So she's what Brandon was talking about. She was listening to Mary J. Blige and Boys to Men and Belle Biv DeVoe. I mean, she was big into hip hop, R&B, and I was the grunge, emo. Yeah, I was that kid. So,
all right, let's get out of here, guys. It's been a while. You guys stuck around really
Thanks,
quick.
fellas.
I would be remiss, really. I just had dinner with a fellow member of our church, Randy Meyer. He's a teaching elder there as well. And we went over to his house, and he's probably got, 4,000 or 5,000 vinyl. He's got his Technique turntables. He's got his Technique speakers. He's got them all organized by genre and name. And he was a DJ in the 80s and 90s. He's now in his 50s. He's phenomenal, one of those knowledge guys. And he has a Spotify playlist that gets millions of hours of listens. It's called History of Power Pop. He is very big into power pop.
Wow.
Probably from the 80s and 90s. I recommend it to all of you. You guys go check it out too. I'm looking at you, Cody. Let me know what you think of it. But yeah, I'm going to throw him out there too, because and he also has a channel that says Christian music I actually like. And he goes through and, man, he finds the deep cuts, and it's none of that garbage that we were talking about. It's all good stuff. So Randy Meyer, go check him out on Spotify. I think he's at, Luther Cal is the name. But guys, give us final word and shout outs to where people can follow you, find you, listen to you, all that good stuff. Whoever wants to pop in, go ahead and start.
Take it, Cory.
Okay. So again, Cory Wing, civically minded, CIVECCLY, civically minded. The song that we played tonight is actually a clip from that song, is my intro and outro for my videos. So I still use my own music because it's easier for copyright. I still use that song to this day, and I still, by and large, other than the harmonica, I still think it's a good song. But yeah, so thank you for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. You two guys have been and our Signal chat, which is now infamous. Thank you, Department of Defense. Signal chat is honestly, I can't say what a blessing it's been to connect with guys who understand this weird podcasting world that we're part of. You guys have been good friends, and I'm grateful. There's days that you talk about screaming into the void. There's days I want to, and you guys have been good friends. So
well, not only that, but I would say, before we get to Cody, I would say you have this set of like brothers and sisters in the Lord, right? And you share Christ as a common bond. But even underneath that, there's all kinds of subsets, and that's really why I wanted to have all you guys on, and Brandon, who was on earlier, too, all four of us, is because under that subset there is those who are musicians, and we are just a weird animal. And there's only certain things that you will get when you talk to someone else who's been in a band, been with a group of guys or maybe girls too, that are playing together, gigging, traveling, writing, right? All the inside stuff that goes into it. We didn't really get into the making of the sausage too much here, but that's why I really want to do this too, because there's a special kinship I have with the three of you, because we're just musicians too. And there's something about that, and you can't always put your finger on it, but you go, yep, I like that guy automatically. I like that girl automatically. They play an instrument. They've been in a band. They've toured, whatever it is. There's just something about that. So I really appreciated you guys coming on and sharing your stories as well. Cody, take us out, man.
So Westminster Effects, westminstereffects.com, or at Westminster Effects on all the socials. It's the home of the 2716 Seth Morrison of Skillet version 2 and deluxe. You can also find my music at Igniting the Sky, wherever you look on socials. And in the tradition of the Dead Men Walking podcast, I just want to let everyone know that Tim Walls's favorite food is bologna because it's tubular meat that has been cut up.
You just had to get me back, didn't you?
I had to.
All right. Yeah, that's an inside joke, but hey, go watch the live streams if you want to know what that's all about. Thank you guys so much for being here. And as always, guys, if you're listening We're going to get this all linked up. Watching or listening, you can click through. You can find the music. You can find their podcast. We love making sure you guys, if you're listening here, you're supporting the other podcasters that we believe in and love. And remember, man, music is to glorify God. It's the arts. He gave it to us to enjoy too. So enjoy music, enjoy playing it, listening to it, sharing it, but do it for the glory of God. As always, you can find out more about us at dmwpodcast.com. Share with a friend. Tell everyone about it. That's how we grow. And remember, the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. God bless. Be sure to check us out at dmwpodcast.com, where you can purchase the best and snarkiest merch on the internet, support the show, and leave us a review or message. Dead Men Walking can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Dead Men Walking Podcast, and on Twitter X at Real DMW Podcast. The Dead Men Walking Podcast is part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. For exclusive show content, be sure to download the Pub TV app and become a member. If you're a business that needs to reach hundreds of thousands of potential customers in your demographic, podcast advertising might be for you. Send all inquiries to deadmenwalkingpodcast@gmail.com.
None your biscuits.